When I show up, I say, hey, the deputy commander's coming to talk about something. The first couple of rows, the first back rows are filled, and then I have to make them move up front. But fortunately, apparently the word got out that we have somebody more interesting than me to listen to. Coach Glassman, come on now. This is Coach Greg Glassman. Let's give him a big round. Founder of CrossFit. He's taken time out of his own schedule to come out and talk to us just because he loves what he does. He loves what all of you do for your country. He brought his whole team out with him, or a big chunk of his team. Maybe it's not even a big chunk. They look like a big chunk to me.
It's a small piece.
Well, great.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get up the stage, and I'm just going to turn it over to the coach and look forward to what you have to say.
Thank you, General.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for your service. I was just explaining to the General, I was born on North Island Naval Air Station. My father was a naval aviator, and in 1968 I was helping my dad put the Christmas lights up in our home. Can I tell this story?
Sure.
In the San Fernando Valley in California, and he spelled out Bomb Hanoi on the roof and Christmas lights. So I was told I should tell that story when I come here. Yeah, I've got some of all of you in my blood, I think. I'm just proud to stand here in front of you. I'm going to share with you what we've been up to, what this CrossFit thing's about. I'm sure there are people sitting here that know as much about this stuff as I do. Cat's out of the bag. I wrote an essay. It was actually a magazine article for a magazine that I founded the month before. And if you ever think you want to start a magazine and your game plan is to write every single article in it, don't do that. It was an unlivable hell for 4 years. I mean, it took a toll on me, and finally got some other writers. But in the second issue of the CrossFit Journal, I wrote an essay called What is Fitness, entitled What is Fitness, and it's seen 100 million downloads. And it starts where I'm bothered by the reality that I'm a champion of fitness, but I don't have a good definition for it. It doesn't make sense to me to say I've dedicated my life to fitness, but I'm not sure what it is. It's one of those things like the Supreme Court judge says, he doesn't know what it is, but he knows it when he sees it. We all had that kind of sense of things, but I wanted to do better. And so I started looking to what would be the prevailing academic authorities, and I found out they didn't have a definition of fitness either. And I found that largely incomprehensible. So in this article, I tried to create a footing, and I think it turns out that we did something significant. There are this 100 million downloads of this essay, and we estimate that the CrossFit community is about 4 million strong, 4 million CrossFitters. And of course, I like defining terms. What's a CrossFitter? Well, I'd say it's someone that does this workout or goes to a CrossFit gym, hangs out, does CrossFit stuff 3 times a week. Now in my gym, most of my people, the median involvement was probably 5 or 6 days a week, but I had enough people that traveled, had multiple residences. I had some Silicon Valley luminaries that would show up infrequently, so I'd say my mean would have been like 3 times a week. So I'm just trying to share where these numbers come from. And I want to underestimate always where I can. But we're guessing there's about 4 million of us, and coming 3 times a week, that's 600 million workouts a year. That's a lot of workouts. We'll do more than 1 billion in 2015 for sure, because we're doubling about every 18 months currently. In this article, What is Fitness, I tried to start the foundation for defining fitness, and I did so by creating 3 operational definitions that would build a broad, general, and inclusive fitness. A fitness whose specialty was not specializing. A fitness that would prepare you for the unknown and the unknowable. They're different. They're different. And it found favor quickly with cops and firemen and soldiers. It took war for the soldiers to really come forward, but the timing was perfect. I want to share with you these operational models. And then I want to cut to the punchline and tell you that we have a definition of fitness. It's the world's first, and it is amenable to accurate and precise estimation, and that's really important. I got a math background, by the way. The first is, I don't have an art bag. Wow, this works nicely. That's a hopper. You turn the crank, and we can pull ping pong balls out of it, right? I would take any inputs on training modalities, exercises, whatever you like. So hold it, give me something, anything.
Jumping.
Jumping.
Running.
Yeah. Brian, give me something.
400-meter run.
Great. And Jimmy's going to pick yoga, and I'm not going to tell him, that's ridiculous. I'm going to put it in there. I'm not going to deny anything. We'll put it in there. Let's load it up with CrossFit elements. Heavy deadlift. Swim a mile. I don't care. Stick it in. Now here's what I want to do. I'm going to turn the crank, and we're going to pull things out, and we're going to line people up, and we're just going to do what's in there and have a competition. My contention is that he or she that wins most often when you conduct this experiment is fittest. And in fact, our inaugural CrossFit Games, we did exactly that. We found a incredible facility. It's my director of training's mom's house. And we found a hopper. It was a discarded peanut roaster. And we got some ping pong balls, and we put reps and sets and exercises in there. And we invited, hey, would you like to maybe by chance be the fittest man in the world? Come on over on Saturday. I mean, there were only about 40 people there, but we thought, we'll be bold and audacious. The winner of this thing is the fittest man on earth. And if someone wants to prove otherwise, we'll do it again with that person. Last year was the 7th running? 8th running. We had 200,000 participants in the open phase, making it the largest sporting event in the world by participation. Something about this hopper. I want to share something with you really, really important. You all know what you don't want to see come out. As soon as the handle's turning, you're like, oh, dear God, please not. Okay? That's what you need to focus on. I used to tour people in gyms when I was working in commercial facilities, and people would see some exercise equipment and go, oh my God, I hate that. And really, all right, I'm your trainer, guess what? And we're going to find out why you hate it. What you should be doing is pulling those things out of the hopper you don't want to see come out and stick with them until there's something in the hopper you suck at even more. Throw it back in and take that thing. Keep working from the bottom. You'll get somewhere you'll never get pursuing your strengths. One model. Second one, there were 3 metabolic pathways. We got power on this axis. I got duration of effort here. I love when these markers work. There's a dividing line between anaerobic and aerobic exercise. This is a phosphocreatine pathway, lactic acid pathway. Well, that looks nice, huh? And aerobic or oxidative. High power, short duration, moderate power, moderate duration, couple of minutes. Long distance. These crash and burn, this one doesn't really. My thought was this. You're as fit as you are balanced in each of these pathways, and I had a very powerful message for people that thought this was fitness, and that message is the more time you spend here, these things just blunt to the point where you lose them. You're paying the price of the specialist, and it's not acceptable. And the more time you spend out here, the less fit you get by our definition. Let's just go back to our other model. You give me someone who's got a 4-minute mile, I'm going to tell you, I'll play this game with them all day long, and until the mile comes out, I'm going to crush them. What I'd really like to do is get in a fight with them. I said something once that had triathletes so mad at me they were sending death threats. I was getting death threats on the phone. Can you imagine? Triathletes. In the same article, I had said that there's no one really that fit in MMA, not yet. And I was saying this because I was working with the best in the world. And they weren't as fit as my girls. Not by these tests. I like the idea, though. I had this vision of like looking outside and there'd be all these triathletes with their little Speedos on and their numbers on and with torches right at my house. I'd just go out with a stick and take care of the whole mess. 3 pathways? No, it turns out there's a 4th. Guy Brooks at Cal found the 4th. I didn't care, it doesn't matter. I'm not really interested in these pathways. What I'm interested in is depth and breadth of adaptation. And so if it turns out that there's a 4th, a 5th, a 6th, and a 7th, I don't care. We want to hit them all. And the way to do that is to work across all power ranges and all possible durations, likely durations. And then I'll handle any metabolic pathway that our researcher friends present to us. We'll be all right with it. When the Brooks pathway, what's the name of it?
We had 2 glycolytic, actually 3 ATP, PCR, 2 glycolytic, and then 1 oxidative.
Hi. They told me that this work confirms your program. And I don't think it does. I don't need any of that. Let me give you a 3rd model here. What was the 3rd? Hopper? What am I missing, Jimmy? Done this too many times. 10 general physical skills. I put up cardiorespiratory endurance, that's the long one. I put the 10 up yesterday doing this from memory. I only listed 8 and I had 150 people watching. No one said anything. And I looked over, where's power and speed? And it's like, let's move that. I apologize for this, but I think it's worth doing. Here we go. Some researchers that I admired came up with a list of 10 general physical skills. It was Jim Colley that invented the Dynamax, the medicine ball that we're so fond of. And I like the list because I'd seen lists of 3 things, 4 things, 5 things. Listen, I like this one because the items were nicely defined, and it was 10. So I'm going to run with this list. These first 4, cardiorespiratory endurance, stamina, strength, and flexibility, are organic modifications in your protoplasm. There's histological cellular changes. Some of it's real easy to measure, like girth. Right? Strength. These things are easy to measure. We can see in the tissues are changed. These 4, coordination, accuracy, agility, and balance, these are neurological. CrossFit came of age in the shadow of the Silicon Valley in Santa Cruz, California, and I had a lot of Silicon Valley clientele. Everyone in Santa Cruz with money is from the Silicon Valley. The rest are surfers and jiu-jitsu legends. It was good for me. I used the language of these were hardware modifications and these are software modifications. Now I want to make an important point here. There's a logical fallacy called a reification. It's if you confuse an abstraction for a reality. And though these nice scientists would give us 10, you could make an argument for 5, 15, or 60. Just define your terms. And the use of the model is dependent entirely on its utility, chiefly in being predictive or giving insight. And these things aren't so clearly delineated. I just play with one here. And by the way, power and speed, what about it? Equal parts organic and neurological. This, by the way, is it. the heart of what we do. In fact, there's another piece here. I'll cut to my punchline here. Force times distance over time is power, and speed is really distance over time. And so these are keenly related. Keenly related. In fact, force times velocity it gets me the same thing, right? Gets me the same endpoint if my algebra is correct. So my thought was, and I think you can see it coming now, you're as fit as you are balanced in each of these. And if there's one of these where you think you're lacking, do something about it. Because I want to protect you for the unknown and the unknowable. I want to deliver a fitness that is by design broad, general, and inclusive. Now, some of these things, I want to look at strength here. In the exercise science community, and traditionally, strength was defined as largely as contractile potential. With what force can the muscle contract? And we might test that with what? Dog leg extension, for instance? We took a different view. We said that strength is productive application of force. Productive application of force. It's got to be successful to a stated end. And what that does for us is something very, very important, and it looks like this. There's a very, very simple movement on the rings, and it's called a muscle up. And you go from below the rings to above the rings, as if by magic. The significance of it is that anything I get a fingertip on, I can choke up and get my hands on, and then get on top and in. And I think you can maybe see where the value of being able to get over a wall you might have this here. Much faster than hooking a foot. You ever seen someone come over a wall from the receiving side that hooks a foot? It's really interesting. You see the foot, and then you see the ass, and then you know where the head's going to be. It's coming next. It's almost perfect from the receiving side. The approach we'd like is peak and maybe not go over. But if I can peak, I can get on top and go in. You might prefer this example. Can you see the advantages of you're on a balcony and you've got a hand grip on it? Wouldn't it be better to get back on and stand there than to wait for the fire department? Right? It's passing and aggress is what it is. But the interesting thing about it is it doesn't take a lot of strength. But it does. In fact, gymnastics moves are graded A through F now for difficulty, and this is an A move. But it's something that probably 999 out of 1,000 Americans can't do. They're not strong enough. Now I meet people that I know are strong enough from the traditional contractile potential point of view. I mean, look at the muscle on this kid. So I know he's strong enough to do a muscle up, but he can't. And we let him try. It's a fun experiment to take a really strong kid and let him flail with just nothing he can do to get on top. But I tell him, wait a minute, let me show you something. I don't want the ring in your hand. I want it on your wrist. And the applications here are great in grappling. This is a hold. This you're not going to get out of. You shorten my arm. Get around on that and pull it in. It's mine. So I tell them I want the rings on the wrist and I want the hand to babysit it. You won't be able to close it. Bend your wrist, everyone, like this. Now try and close your hand. You can't really, right? So you feel that where you're so bent over and you can't close your hand? That's the strongest grip you have. Not the hand, this. Amazing, right? So I tell them, here's what you can do with the rings. Bring them to your chest. Go right around the collarbone. Look, constant contact above the nipples. And then down the side. Never away from your body. One more time, just play with it. And I'll make him do exactly that. And then I put him back on the rings and he does it. Does contractile potential change? No. No, what changed was his ability to, through coordination, accuracy, agility, and balance, he was able to demonstrate some strength that he kind of had but couldn't do anything about. That's a real simple example, but I'm going to tell you, it's true of everything. Even something as simple as stand up, Jimmy. I have to teach you how to do that right. We all stand up. But untrained, it's exceedingly unlikely that you do it right. But my 14-month-old daughter squats with perfect form, with perfect technique, and no one ever showed her any of this. He's like, look at her, that is, wow. When you run classes for kids, about half of 5-year-old girls can do pull-ups. 10 years later, 1 in 20 can do one. What happens? I'm going to tell you what CrossFit is. It's rehab. We're going to get you back to doing all those things you used to be able to do. It's so true. Do you know, almost everyone in here, your grandma could do a cartwheel? She's probably gone, but ask your mom. If your grandma's around, ask her. Youngsters, ask your grandma. Will you do that? You got a grandma? Yeah. She did cartwheels. Kids don't anymore. So 3 models. They're operational, but I think you get the intent of it all. And we stared at this thing for a long time, and in the What is Fitness piece, I had an observation. I listed it at the time as a model. I realize now it wasn't, but it was, I couldn't leave it alone, and it was hugely significant, and it turned out to be a profound discovery for us. And it looks like this, that I can put power on this axis, and again, this is force times distance divided by time. This distance is directed. This is a vector. It's not. It's got direction. That displacement is up, and this force will be the weight in time. I'm going to use a watch. Look what we're doing here. I'm going to be using a tape measure, and I'm going to be using a scale and reading. See, the plate says 45 pounds on it, so I have to be able to look at that and go, that says 45 pounds. It's one of the skills you have to be a trainer. And you have to be able to watch someone against one of those scales that's, you know, the ruler that's at the doors at the 7-Eleven, so when you rob the place and leave, the camera can tell how tall you were. We put one of those on the wall. And you had to be able to, come here, Jimmy, and do 5 slow squats for me. And you had to be able to see that he was getting about that high, and that when he was down, he was about that low. And what we do is we pick a target, we look for the center of mass, thank you. And it turns out everyone's pretty good at that. That if I have people squat in front of a ruler, everyone will agree within the inch as to how high he's going and how low he's going. And then I got to be able to use my watch. And it turns out that almost all trainers can do this. We can see how far it moves. I can ask you to weigh yourself. And I can measure the loads. And so I'm able to figure out what the power is, and I can reduce it to foot-pounds per minute, 22,000 of which is a horsepower. But we can play in joules, dynes, watts, whatever you want. So the concept was this: take any point, 10 seconds, let's come up with 3 activities and measure the power output. I might have you do thrusters, a front squat push press. So just get down like this with a bar, boom, 10 seconds. How many can you do? Pick a weight, it doesn't really matter. I might have you do 10 seconds worth of pulling on a Concept 2 rower and convert the watts to foot-pounds per minute. There's one, that's kind of cool. I don't have to catch the vertical displacement. And pick a third, I don't know, find something that takes 10 seconds and measure it. Doesn't matter what it is. Give me an average. Let's do this at 30 seconds. I don't claim this is the scale here. 60 seconds and 1 hour. I don't care. And pick a handful of things at each of these durations, take their average, and graph it. And what I have is your power output doing a whole bunch of things against a whole bunch of different times. Let's clean that up a little. Scientists don't use a whole bunch of kind of talk much. I'm measuring work capacity across broad time and modal domains. From short duration to long, doing a whole bunch of different things. Broad time and modal domains. That's mathematician talk. Let's talk about this area under the curve. The area under the curve, if you remember from your calculus, is the integration of that power curve is work capacity. It's work. And what we have here is the work capacity of the athlete measured across broad time and modal domains. It is fitness. Plain and simple. I now have a definition of fitness amenable to accurate and precise estimation. That was a world first. We did that. We did that. It came out of, and I'll tell you, this wasn't the fourth, this is the punchline. I kind of got my order wrong here. I want to share something else that we saw, but this was significant. And by the way, when we do workouts, when you do a CrossFit workout, if you tell me that you weigh 200 pounds and you did Fran in 5 minutes, we can reduce that to some number of foot-pounds per minute very nicely. And I can compare you to anyone else that did that workout. I've attached a power meter to human beings. And instead of testing once a year, I've actually got to test every single time I work out if I care to look at the information. And I ask people, you know, I understand the annual or twice annual PFT, but I was like, imagine running a nuclear power plant where you checked its output annually, and then make some assessment as to performance. I have a lack of data that really, if you really want to make a powerful difference. When you do a CrossFit workout, you have power output. You have a measure, an accurate and precise measure of fitness every single workout. Now, if you choose to just do the workouts and throw that away, you can. But if you want to turn it into the basics, fundamentals, that's available too. But let me show you something I think is really important and relates to some of the stuff that we had that we talked about in the brief here this morning. And this was kind of a curious observation. There's a continuum of values from those that are sick or pathological. We'll use the vernacular where we can. Normal or well, and then fit. Let's pick one. 30% body fat. You got a problem. I keep seeing that the number for women should be 20 to 22%. Have you heard that? 25? Yeah. I got a whole bunch of gals at 10%, and not a one of them amenorrheic. Not a one of them amenorrheic. Let's look at blood pressure. 200 over 110. That's not good, right? 120 over 70. Now you're fine. You're well. Doctor says you don't need to come anymore. Perfect. You've cured it. I used to hang out at 105 over 46. I don't know. I get that over and over again. It would freak people out. Take my blood pressure. It's 105 over 46. I'd sit down, get in my little state of way. 105 over 46. That's a fit value. Check this out. I don't know of a single metric that doesn't follow in this pattern, that the values that are normal or well are bracketed by the sick and the fit. Even subjective mood kind of things. Athletes throw numbers and you know, when you look at them, there's a great book called Rings. I was a gymnast, a ringman, so that makes it a great book, right? And in there was a psychological study of gymnasts, and they're all like delusional of being Superman. I mean, they're just crazy ideas of what they're capable of. Because, see, they're capable of crazy things. So it gets to your head in a very positive way. I undertook the study of mathematics when I retired from gymnastics because it was the thing that I was shittiest at. I couldn't do math to save my life. And I said, so I'm gonna try it again, like a gymnast. And guess what? Turned out I was a math genius. Nothing close to that. But the people that didn't do homework thought I was. Yeah, and because I remember Trin Tran, he's a boat kid, for God's sakes. How does he know this shit? Sitting there in the back of the room, his kid's just fresh off the boat from Vietnam, and every time the teacher asked anything, his hand went up and he knew, and I couldn't figure out how this kid was doing that shit. And then after 8 years later, when I'm done with gymnastics, I knew he was studying, he was using the book. I became a math tutor, and when you came to me, the first thing I'd want to see is, I want to see your book. And very often you go, oh, I didn't bring it. I go, okay. Did you get one? Yeah, I have it. Well, come back with your book. I want to see your book. And they'd bring the book and I'd close it and look at it. And if I couldn't see where you were in the class, the problem here is obvious. We've poisoned our kids by making the social sciences and humanities so easy. If history and psychology were as rigorous as physics and math, it would be good for everybody. I don't know of anything that doesn't sit this way. So here's my question for you. If you're fit, don't you have to get well before you can get sick? Look, you think you can go from 105 over 46 to 200 over 110 without having a normal value at some point in between? You can go from 10% body fat to 30% without being 25? When we see things sit so well ordered like this, it leads me to believe, and I ask that in What is Fitness, are these varying degrees of some single thing? Look, I got little ones, I got medium ones, I got big ones. And everything sits on there. Yeah. It looks like this. Remember this, remember fitness, right? Area under the curve. Let's extend a third axis. I hope this looks like the corner of a room to someone in here, right? And imagine a curtain sweeping down through this so that I end up with a three-dimensional solid. Hardest part of Calculus 3 was the fucking graphs, because I'm not an artist. I maintain that this is an accurate and precise metric of health, that volume. That fitness is to health the way weather is to climate. That your fitness is a snapshot of your health. It's certainly consistent with this model. Let's ask yourself, what do you want in life? You know, I mean, look, when I'm 90 years old, what I'd really like, here's my goals in life at 90. I want to have good blood pressure and good cholesterol, and I want my triglycerides, right? And there's probably 7 other things I'm going to find between now and then I should be monitoring and working and taking pills for, right? That's what I want. No, I don't. I want to be fully functional. I want to be independent. I want to get on my Harley and I want to put my girlfriend on the back and I want to take her to the rodeo. And if some punk starts something, I want to kick his ass right in front of her at 90. That's what I want to do. And if I can do that, I don't really care about my cholesterol or my blood pressure or really anything else. My blood pressure and cholesterol are interesting to me. In fact, they're critical to me if they are harbingers, or if they are telltales of diminished capacity. Then I'm keenly interested. But you know what's interesting? I put all those things up there: blood pressure, cholesterol, triglycerides, insulin resistance. They all sit on that continuum, well ordered, from sick to healthy to fit. I fix all those things, all of them, at once, with exercise. We do it through functional movement. We do it by establishing an improvement in this line for you today and keeping it through your age. Man, I told you the fitness industry didn't have a definition of fitness that was amenable to accurate and precise estimation. We immediately went to the physicians, including those on staff. Hey, doc, what's health? I don't know. That's the medical answer. I don't know. They don't have one. You lean hard enough, you get someone to say the absence of pathology. That sounds like being well. But it also means that if I fall face first into my mashed potatoes on Thanksgiving, that I was in perfect health up until that moment. So simple. It's so easy. And the work's the hardest thing you'll ever do. But it doesn't start there. It starts with baby steps. It starts with teaching you again how to stand up. We teach everyone to squat. You've got to be able to effectively lower and elevate your body through a full range of motion. Standing up and sitting down. Hanging out. My little girls sit here for hours, just hang, you know? I mean, hours, for minutes. Should show that video of her that it's amazing what she'll do in 2 minutes, just all over the place. But it's rehab of sorts. Someone told me once, my doctor told me I can't deadlift. All right. So your doctor let you, older gal, I said, you walk to the store, right? She says, yeah. And I go, you get food for your cat? And all, yeah, and the cat litter. I go, cool, so you got the bag in your hands, and you get to the door, and now your key's in your pocket. What happens? She goes, well, what do you mean? I go, what do? Your keys are in your pocket, the bag's in your hand. You got the cat litter and and the Friskies. What's next? She goes, well, I put it down. I'm going, all right. And then unlock the door. She, yeah. And I go, pick it up? Yeah. And she goes, will you get that okayed for me? Just ask him, tell him, you want to be able to put the cat litter down and unlock the door and then pick it back up. If he'll okay that, he did. I go, great, then we won't do deadlifts, we're going to do kitty litter pickups. F them. It doesn't make sense to not prescribe these movements. You need to be able to deadlift. You need to be able to deadlift. Warfighters have to deadlift. Athletes have to deadlift. Here's my observation. The needs of Olympic athletes and our grandparents differ by degree, not kind. Their fitness and health needs. The Olympian needs functional dominance to win gold medals. My grandmother needs functional competence to stay out of the nursing home. We live in dread fear of cancer and heart disease. That's not what puts people in nursing homes. It isn't. Put you in a hospice, but not likely a nursing home. What puts people in nursing homes is feebleness and frailty. That's what puts them in nursing homes. And when you call Grandpa to Thanksgiving dinner and he's trying to pull himself off the couch and he's pushing off the knees and pulls the coffee table over and he's having trouble getting up, and we come over and scoop him under the arm, kind of doing a deadlift, and bring him to the table, the discussion starts, what happens if he's alone and falls? And if Grandma's in the same boat, the problem's compounded, not mitigated. You know the help, I've fallen, I can't get up. It's tragic. What's happened is that he's lost the marginal capacity to stand. That's the language we use for the doctor. In the gym, we say he can't squat. And he's got to be able to, or he can't live by himself. And it's so easy to begin that journey. And I know there are people that are afraid of CrossFit. I know people that think you can get hurt doing CrossFit. They're right. You can get hurt doing CrossFit. You can get hurt doing CrossFit. 300,000 people are going to lose their lives to sitting at home watching TV. 10,000 Americans are going to lose their lives driving to work in the next year. Of the 200,000 people that competed in the Open, 20 of them should die in car accidents over the next year. Not one will be killed doing CrossFit. So you sit home, you're taking the greatest risk, you get in the car and the risk is compounded a little because now you're sedentary and in the car, right? And you get to the gym and I'm doing something about all my risks. I'm moving all those values on the continuum over towards, if you're pathological, we're moving it to wellness. If you're well, we're moving it to fit. And we've seen many people go from the sick side all the way over to the fit side. And it's not with drugs, it's not with meds, it's done with functional exercises. Movements that we didn't invent, movements that no man or woman invented, movements that predate the first gym by millions of years, movements that are tied into your DNA, they're part of who you are. If I took this creature to a Martian, see it? Put arms on it, is it helping? Make it a girl? And I asked, how would this thing, given this articulation and the direction and action of the impetus of the muscles, How would this thing effectively get from above something to up? The answer, a computer could be designed to return the answer. It's a deadlift. If anyone says, I invented the squat, they're lying. No one invented standing up. You got that? No one I invented throwing a rock. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. None of the CrossFit moves are gym moves. What's a gym move? Here's a gym move. This isn't part of your DNA. It's not an efficient and effective locomotor of an external object or the body. This is another gym move. Look, I got good form too on this shit. See, you empty the bucket at the top. Remember that stuff, Jimmy? Yeah. Yeah. It's a lateral raise. The only place anyone's ever done that is in a gym. Leg extension, that's a weird one. I've got a move that just never happens anywhere. There's never an isolated contraction of the quadricep. That never, ever happens, not in the real world. A bunch of those moves in the gym, I don't like them. I don't like the way they distribute load. I don't like the way the body articulates. I got a problem with it. I think they're dangerous. But more than that, I'm dismayed by their total ineffectiveness. Why? Because they move small loads, short distances, and slowly. Remember force distance in time? We want to take something relatively heavy and we want to move it relatively fast. There's the velocity component, there's the weight component. So now I'm getting scared again. I'm hearing heavy, I'm hearing fast. No, it starts with stand up, because that is heavy. You know, you can't be afraid of your body weight, or you won't be standing up anymore. So important. And along the way, in the gym, there's a million life lessons we can learn. Lessons that are more readily imparted, taught, and more readily received than in any other environment. And not because the environment's so special, but because this is the easiest province within which to learn. And learn what? Self-mastery. If you can't handle the physical part, the spiritual, emotional, and cognitive will be forever out of reach. Forever. You're not going to do it. Thank you for everything. Thank you. You got any questions? Oh, come on. Sir.
Adam Carlson's the name.
Hi, Adam.
I love CrossFit, and I love what you're talking about. Thank you very much for what you've done.
Thank you, sir.
For those who are like me, who have always been an exercise person. But it's a whole new world for me when I go out and exercise now. But I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Regarding your continuums that you've got.
Yeah.
There are ends. There have to be. And my own man's a pretty smart guy too, and I live under a mantra that perfection is the enemy of good enough. And on the arc that you've got of sick, well, and fit, everybody wants to be fit, but we can't get there because there's a product of time, and you can't afford it. At what point in there, and this is what I think is lacking, with all due respect, in the CrossFit world is, you can't all be 105 over whatever it is, some ungodly blood pressure. At what point in there do you think is good enough for those who can't get to perfection? Perfection, again, is the right side of that continuum.
Yeah. You know, you watch the CrossFit Games and you get one perception of CrossFitters, and you come into my gym and you meet the soccer moms and the Silicon Valley household name who's morbidly obese, and the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt world champion, and I mean we had a crazy mix. CrossFit Kids is alive and thriving. I got gyms that only work with seniors. I got Kyle Maynard is an affiliate and one of our trainers, and Kyle doesn't have arms or legs. Think of that as a coach. I mean, he's quadruple amputee, born that way, congenital. And he's a trainer. Imagine him demonstrating, showing you how to do a deadlift. He's super effective. He can make it work. You know, you come to me at 85 and you go, I want to win the long jump at the next Olympics. I'm not going to tell you that's not going to happen. I'm going to tell you, well, we got to get busy, man, because you're old, and we only got 4 years. Now, let's start today. Let's start today. And let me tell you something along the way, and this is the part that's not funny. This is the part that's amazing. He's not going to make it, all right? But he's going to get so much closer than you would have ever thought possible. And that's the beauty of it. You know how I know you can be a good trainer in my gym? When the old lady climbs up the rope and slides down with bloody hands and is crying like a baby, and you start to cry. And I look around, I'm like, I'm keeping these people. Everyone's embarrassed with the tears on their face right now. You're staying with me. They are to this day. That's why we're there. I sat in a exercise psychology class and was getting lectured to on goals. And one of the things, a goal has to be obtainable. And I was like, excuse me, ma'am, bullshit. Does not. At the time, Mary Lou Retton was best female gymnast in the world, and there were 5 million little girls that had her poster above their bed. And they all wanted to be her. And 3 or 4 got there. And the rest never got close. But they all that stuck with that sport, had an incredible experience. I believe that the people at the Olympics that take 4th, 5th, and 6th place fare better than those that get gold, silver, and bronze in life. I just want you on the road, brother. I don't even care what it is. I'm not an endpoint guy. I'm a process guy. And so I just want them involved. And you look at that continuum, and whatever I can do to move you up here any little bit, let's talk about longevity. I'm going to tell you, the further you get on that curve, the longer you're going to live. And again, my goal isn't longevity. My goal is to maintain my functional independence. And I'm going to do that by elevating my work capacity across broad time and modal domains and keeping there for as long as I possibly can. And I maintain that that's going to have a better effect on even those traditional kinds of medical values that I'm not paying attention to but will brag about impacting. The 4 million people I told you about doing CrossFit, they've lost at least 80 million pounds of fat. 80 million pounds of fat. Imagine that impact. I remember saying that one day we're going to meet as someone who lost 100 pounds in a CrossFit gym. Now every gym that's been open 5 years has one, seems like. I now have a family of affiliates that have people that have lost 100 pounds that are now an affiliate. And tell you, those people are really, really successful. I don't think anyone here, has anyone here ever lost 100 pounds? I haven't. I've seen it done, but I can't imagine something more transformative of a human being than to shed 100 unneeded pounds. I just can't imagine what it would be like. But these affiliates are saying that the clients are just jumping out of the trees. Like everyone knew the fat kid, now look at him. And I'm heavy and you're skinny and you used to be fat and I used to make fun of you. They believe. They know you can do it. It's all just process. You trying to get your dad to CrossFit, Adam? Is that?
No.
All right.
I have gotten my wife to CrossFit, and she is way more dedicated now than I am, sadly. Again, I wish I had a whole lot more time.
Yeah.
At night, but,
Yeah.
No,
Do you think the games alters the perception of the potential?
Yes, because you see some incredibly fit people.
Yeah.
What I'm worried about is I've got 2 friends of mine who are diehard CrossFitters who are injured now because they overexerted
What'd they hurt?
their stomachs. And I forget what it's called, Robo or...
Oh, rhabdo?
Rhabdo.
Yeah, that'll get better.
Yeah, it'll get better. But along the way, it caused them to stop. It caused them to fear the CrossFit exercise because I'm overexerted. I'm going to stop doing it. I'm not going back there. I think that's where.
Ahmet Jones he's an affiliate. He's also a radiologist, Uniformed Services University guy. He was the dive medical officer for the West Coast SEAL teams. He rounded up some super CrossFitters, some SEALs, and some people that weren't in such good shape, and he put them all through Fight Gone Bad, every one of them. And then 4 hours later did a blood draw. He could have put every one of them in a hospital from that blood draw. So that evening, everyone repeated the workout, and he took their blood the next morning, and he says, I'm not going to share with you the levels. They could have all been admitted with rhabdo, all of them. We've seen a lot of rhabdo, but not nearly as much as the marathons do or the triathlons do.
Okay, for the uneducated, what is rhabdo?
Muscle tissue breaks down, and the detritus hits the bloodstream, and it's in the worst case scenario is seen as toxic, right? Renal failure is the big fear in compartment syndrome. Okay, we one weekend at a seminar put 2 SEALs in the hospital with rhabdo. Just an amazing experience. They watched Oprah for 2 days and got IV, and then went home. They're perfectly fine. There were 7 other people, also Navy guys, in the hospital that weekend from the marathon. Okay. Marathons routinely see rhabdo death and EAHE death. If I had a rhabdo incident at the New York Marathon, we'd be killing people with rhabdo every day. We do not. So, but to get a sore belly and get scared and run away is, it's sad. It's sad. But what was the other injury?
Both of them were rhabdo, and they just quit doing CrossFit because they said, this is linear. So that was it.
How long had they been doing it?
I don't know.
Yeah. John Welborn is a CrossFit football guy. He was a 12-year starter for the Chiefs. Anyone remember him? He said every lineman, offensive and defensive, every single game pisses what looks like Coca-Cola after every single game. So every single lineman everywhere gets rhabdo every football game. I wouldn't quit over it. Yeah. We ran into an orthopedic surgeon that says he sees CrossFit injuries. And I said, you're a CrossFit? He said, oh, I love it. It's the best thing I've ever done. He says, it's changed the way I see orthopedic medicine. It's changed the way I see injury. It's changed my views of fitness, and it's changed my views of health, and it's changed the way I treat athletes and the way I talk to everybody. And you lean on him, and what he shares with you is that we have to ratchet up our tolerance for orthopedic calamity to address effectively the rampant systemic illness. I would ask people, listen, these are good discussions to have. Would you take an ACL tear over bypass surgery? I would, real fast. Like, if there's anyone in doubt here, right? On some level, there's trade-offs like that. I know being sedentary has its cost, 300,000 people. So, I'd rather have rhabdo and an ACL tear than watch Oprah and die young. A lot of this reminds me of John Boyd's observation that you want to get fewer people killed in dogfights. You need to get more people killed in training. Remember that? And no one wants to hear that, but geez, it is a fact. Dr. Wayne Lee of PSP. Interesting guy. He was a SOCOM type Canadian, a PhD exercise physiologist, runs their support programs. He's the exercise physiologist for Canadian Forces. And we had a moment at dinner where he just in anguish puts his head in his hands and he says, I get it. We adopted Western medicine's maxim of first do no harm, and the kids are getting killed in Afghanistan because of it. And I have a workforce that's not nearly as deployable as it should. A fighting force isn't deployable as it should be. My SEALs laughed. He says it's worse in the States. Keep chuckling. It's an interesting notion, isn't it? You want safe PT, perfectly safe? I'll give you right here. We're doing it. But it's going to take 300,000 of you in the next year. You just shift the risk. Sitting home doing nothing is not safe. Driving your car to work is much more dangerous than doing CrossFit. Much more dangerous. 80 million pounds of fat loss, over 100 million points in HDL elevation, hundreds of millions of points of triglyceride depression, and not one death. I'll take the two. We've had 2 suicides of affiliates and 2 murders of affiliates in their gym. Put those on me. Blame me for those. We also had a suicide by cop in Alaska. Blame that on CrossFit. We're still safer and more effective than any drug that's ever been approved. Our tolerance for fitness injury is so low because we have so little expectation of it. I expect it to improve your life, to change the way you see the world at every facet, and it will extend your functional independence and ultimately your longevity. And you might get hurt. But if you don't do things, you're going to get hurt worse and sooner and more dramatically. Next question. Sir.
Can you talk about the hero walk process, how you came up with that?
Yeah, guy drops me a line. He says, my buddy Murph was killed and we loved him to death, and would you make a workout in his honor? And I say, yeah, okay, well, there's my requirement now. I want to be asked by survivors, I want him to be a known CrossFitter, and I want the support of family and friends. And we got 60-something of them. That's a, yeah, you know. Okay, thank you.